Good morning, everybody. Well, it is morning here in Australia. Welcome to the 7 Steps to Successful Grant Applications webinar today. Thanks for making the time to be here. I hope you learn something in terms of how to write grant applications, how to grow your business, and learn about the grants ecosystem. I'm based here in Australia, so the content is swayed towards Australia for any specific examples. But as you'll see, my proven process can be applied to any grant applications, no matter where you are in the world. So thank you for joining me. I will just start off with some basic housekeeping. Please have yourself on mute. This webinar will be recorded and sent out to you. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat, starting with the letter Q. And because I'm using the Eventbrite platform for the ticketing, sometimes the emails do end up in junk or your spam folder. So just be sure to check them. But you do have my email address. So if you have any questions, please just reach out. So let's make a start today. How many of you here today are small business owners? Pop up your hand if you are a small business owner. Yes, we've got a few in the room. So small business owners are often not ready or don't know what is required when it comes to grant applications. The grant programs need a short application period, which is sometimes as little as 4 weeks, and that's not much time. And we all know that as small business owners, resources and time are scarce and limited. And we're already wearing way too many hats and are already too busy. So to add on something else like writing a grant application can be very daunting. So I'm Liz, the Efficiency Coach, and I'm obsessed with helping businesses to grow and expand their business through business grants. You know how there's never enough time to get that grant application written, and it's quite often the last thing on the list, and it just seems way too hard and too stressful and never gets done. What I do is make sure that you have got the tools at your fingertips when it comes to writing grant applications so that it is an easier process and we can be successful. Now, in today's webinar, I am going to take you through my proven process of the 7 steps of writing successful grant applications. And I'm also going to give you the opportunity to work with me so that we can grow your business and get your business grants ready for when those grant applications come out. So just wanted to share that with you up front. Also, I've got a bit of a geeky confession to make. I do love writing grant applications. For me, it's a way to learn about your business, where you've come from, how you've got to be today, and where you want to go in the future. I've had experience in managing government grant programs for government agencies here in Australia, and I'm also upfront about how strong your project or idea is for each grant program. So if you come along and we find a grant and your project isn't quite what I think would be a strong contender, looking at the application rules and the objectives, then, we'll either tweak the project, do some more brainstorming, or, we won't write the grant and we'll try and find another one more suitable for you and your business. This is one of the main reasons why I've got an 85% success rate in writing grant applications. And I'm pretty proud of that. I can write it for you. I can write it with you. I can do a review process. There's heaps of options as well. So let's get started. So my guarantee to you at the end of today's workshop, you'll have 7 clear steps to follow when writing grant applications. The process I will outline is the process that I use with my own clients. Success. What does success mean to you? Now, it means different things to different people, and it's all in the preparation to get a result. And this is something I truly believe. So when it comes to grant applications, the grant programs are released. As I say, they don't have a long open period. So we need to be quick about this stage. We need to get all the information. That's normally the guidelines. If there's a webinar to watch, we need to see who is offering this grant program. We need to read through that criteria, and we need to read through it again and again. And we need to draft our outline of what our project might look like. What are we going to apply for? what does that entail? How does it fit in? And, does it meet the basic criteria of the grant program that we're looking at? So that's the first step. Now, it's really important to be ready when it comes to grants. So as I've said, it's all in the preparation. So planning out what you're going to do is really important. So what I do is I take the application form, put it into a Word document, and then I also create a numbered checklist of all the components required. So we need to make sure that we've got every single bit noted, because for some grant applications, there's a lot of information to be gathered. And if you miss one of those pieces of information when you're submitting it, you'll just get knocked off straight away. They won't even bother looking at it. This is also the step where you need to bring your team together and have that all important kickoff meeting. Who's going to be involved? Who's going to do what? If you're a small business, you may need to get an external person to help you, or a family member. If you're a larger organization, you may have, people in your team that have got this skill set. Now, it doesn't have to be me, but do make sure that you find someone that has experience writing grants. They are a bit of a beast, and can be, as I said earlier, a really stressful exercise. And so it's important to engage a grant writer, but someone that has the knowledge and to be able to help you through this process, and they know what they're doing. So a really key step here is the planning. So your numbered checklist, your Word document. I wouldn't advise typing straight into the portal because it happened to me last night. I was applying for a grant. It was basic information, but then my computer absolutely froze. So luckily it was only really basic information. It wasn't answering some answers, but just made me realize that I, should have even done that onto a Word document so I could copy and paste it if it crashed. So yeah, word of warning there. And who's going to be in your team and engaging that all-important grant writer? There's plenty of us around, and as I say, it's something that I really enjoy doing. Step 3, now this is what I do, creating and designing your own project plan. So I really treat the application for a grant as its own project. Because yes, we're planning the project that we're going to apply for the funding for. We need to make sure that we've thought about that. But then the project in itself is actually the grant application. So think of it a bit like applying for a job. We need to gather our information, work out what we're going to tell them, and succinctly, within the rules and regulations of the criteria of what we're applying for, planning it out to write it in the best way. So how is this project going to happen? So all grants are obviously a competitive process, and we're always normally asking for money. So we need to know how much money we're asking for. We need to know how this project is going to work. So once we get the money, what's going to happen? Who's going to be the project manager? How are we going to actually execute this project if we're successful? This is where we're going to continue to allocate the tasks and the actions to our team, and really working out that budget and those costs involved. Now, this is really important because some grant applications require limits of what you can ask for money for. So they might have a cap of $50,000. Excuse me. They might also have a minimum of $20,000. And they might also have a matching criteria. That means you might get 50% of the project funded through the grant, and your business needs to stump up the other 50%. So it's a 50% matching. So if they gave you $10,000 and the project was $20,000, you would need to find funding for that extra $10,000. It's also important at this point to work out if you were successful, where you would get that funding from. They don't normally care where it comes from, but you do need to work out for your own business strategy, whether it's achievable. Step 4, now collating their supporting documents. Now, this is a step that I find a lot of people are the most unaware about. Some grant applications have a section where it just says, attach any supporting documentation, whatever you like. Some other ones I've seen will detail exactly what they want. So again, reading the criteria, what is required and what are they asking for? Excuse me. If they don't give you the opportunity to attach other documents, don't attach them. If they haven't asked for it, don't necessarily attach it just for the sake of it. However, if they do say attach supporting documents as you see fit, and they've said 4 more attachments can be made, utilize it. If you've got other drawings or designs or concepts or something that can help your application and they're there, attach them. At this stage, this is where we write the letters of support. So letters of support are exactly what they are, from other organisations and sometimes community groups or parts of society that are going to benefit from this project. So if you're in business, it might be a supplier, it might be a customer, that if you increase your production or this purchase of this equipment is going to mean that they're going to make more money as well, and that your distribution might increase. We draft those letters of support, we send them off to the businesses and ask them to return them to us signed. This is where it's also really important to be ready about your planning for your project and getting in touch with those people that might be associated, and building those relationships so that when it comes to writing the grant application, you are ready to go and they're willing to help you. Getting the quotes. Now, most grant applications will not let you submit without the quotes. So again, we know everyone's busy and some businesses are reluctant to provide a quote when you're applying for a grant, and others are more than happy to do so. So again, it's important to have that relationship to say, hey, look, I am applying for this grant. Can you please provide me a quote? And normally, the quotes that you get in the application don't necessarily have to be the ones you use when you're successful further down the track. So just a word of warning, or just something to think about there, that it doesn't have to be. If you can get a quote for something and you're not necessarily going to use them, that's better than having no quote, because you probably can't apply for them if you don't submit quotes. Now, financial reports, and luckily for you, I'm a chartered accountant as well. So if you've got Xero, it's very easy to download these financial reports and have them signed off by me. Sometimes there's cash flow projections. Sometimes they are asking for evidence of your financial status to see, especially for large amounts, to show that your business is solvent. And this is at the point where we just get shit done. We just need to absolutely get all the stuff in line. Make sure our quotes are coming, our letters of support, that we know what financial reports we need to do. Are our financials up to date? It's the first question. Sometimes they might require you to have a business plan as well. So a lot of people don't have a business plan, or they don't have one that's up to date that they can share with a grant program. So that's another thing to consider at this point. Now, step 5. A lot of people are surprised that we get to step 5 out of 7 and we're only starting to write our application now. And this comes back to the point that I was making at the start, that it's all in the preparation. It's all in the readiness. If you know what your project is, you've got all your documents, you've got all your quotes. I quite often wait till we've at least got the quotes, because then I can make sure that each of the components of the quotes of what we're wanting to purchase and apply for the funding, then that helps me write the grant application as well. Now, there's always key criteria to address, and this varies wildly across grant applications. And there's not even any rhyme or reason when it comes to value of the grant application. So I've done some grant applications for a $5,000 business plan where we've had to write like 2 sentences or 2 paragraphs. I've done applications where we've applied for $25,000 worth of equipment, and I've had to do about 20 pages of project plan, risk management plan, business plan, all this other stuff. And then I've also done $20,000 grant applications where we've had to answer 4 questions, and each question has a limit of 2,000 characters. So it's really important to, at the start, look at the criteria, see what the application form is and what are the restrictions, and maximizing those words as well. I did have clients the other day say in the past, when they've applied for grants, when there's been a 2,000 word limit, which is about 300 words, they said they would just normally write a couple of sentences. And I was like, well, have you got those grants? Have you been successful? And they're like, no, we've missed out. So, now we've written a really strong application, maximizing those character limits, not going over, because when you copy and paste it from your Word document to the portal, it'll chop it off. So mid-sentence. So you do need to be really careful about that. And when it comes to writing your answers as well, it's also checking the assessment weighting. So some questions are weighted more heavily than others, and that's how the panel will review your application. This is the most important step, and that's why there's 4 steps before this. And then once we've got all the information, it's also an efficient way of writing it as well, because we don't have to like miss bits out or not know what we've included or all that kind of stuff. But when you are running your draft application, the other thing I see quite often is people not going back to basics. So remember, you've been in your business for a long time, you've created it, you know your business inside out, but the people reading these applications don't know anything about you, don't know anything about your project. So you've really got to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, but also in really basic terms. I've seen draft grant applications where they haven't actually described what they're buying. So we need to put in there, this project will purchase or will provide the funding for the purchase of XYZ. And this will allow XYZ to happen in our business. Increase production, increase efficiencies, to hire more staff, whatever the outcome we're predicting. But sometimes people leave those key things out, and it's not till I've gone through to review it and I'm like, hang on, you're missing bits. And they're like, oh, that was just implied. We cannot imply anything, and it needs to be written in really simple language. Now, number 6, this is the second step of the writing. So I normally write the draft, and back to the word limits. If you've got 500 words, 2,000 characters, whatever it might be, sometimes you might write a bit more. Sometimes you might want to keep it online at the start, but then also adding in the why and adding in your story. So again, as I said before, the panelists know nothing about your project. They might not even know anything about your industry. They might know nothing. They're just in a government agency, working in the grants team, on the panel for these particular grants. So this is where we need to make sure we're writing in a persuasive way. We need to get across really clearly why our project is the best with the most impact. And again, going back to that criteria. So I always, and this is personal preference, but I always print out the guidelines and I always print out the application form. This means that I have them there all the time. And whenever I'm doing the work on the grant applications, I'm always referring back to them. Oh, what did this one say? What are we trying to say here? What are the outcomes? And making sure we're including the benefits to the targeted audience. So everything has to link back to whatever that grants program is trying to achieve. And if it doesn't, you're not going to get approved. So that's another reason why we need to make sure we're adding in our why and adding in our story, obviously within the parameters of the word limits, but it's really important that it is in there. And this brings us to the last step, step 7. So we've written it, we've added in our why, and now it's time to review. Now, even I make sure that someone else reviews the grant application. Now, quite often this will be the client that I'm working with if I'm writing it for them, just so that they can, 1, check that it's factually correct, and that we're not stating anything that's not going to happen or, that's not right. And they can add bits on or ask why I've included certain things in there. When I'm writing a grant application, I always say to people, I need to extract the information out of you as the business owner. And quite often, you might give me a couple of sentences or even 1 sentence, and I can turn that into half a page or a page of a written answer. So then we need to also make sure that we are aiming to submit a couple of days before the deadline. And when we go back to our planning and our project plan, I quite often, if it's due on a Friday, I will actually end that project plan for the Wednesday. Just give a couple of day buffer. Sometimes quotes might be late coming in, letters of support don't come in, or something changes. And again, we don't want to end up trying to submit at 11:58 when it closes at 11:59 and our computer crashes. So just trying to reduce the stress of what can be a very stressful and large project within itself to get this grant application across the line. And I always think it's important at this point to celebrate. It is a massive feat. And the good thing I like about grant applications is quite often the content that you've created for your grant application and the process that you've gone through to come up with that grant application can be used in other areas of your business. So I've had some clients go and apply for more grants and sort of a bit of a copy and paste and a bit of a tweak exercise. Other people have used what we've written on their website. Other people have used it to go and apply for a business loan or other funding in their business. So, there's many other uses of a grant application because it is all about the process. It's answering questions that you might not have necessarily ever been asked in your business. And going back to basics is something that, you know, in the hustle and bustle of being a business owner and wearing so many hats, we don't necessarily ever see it. So as they say, we can't see the wood for the trees. And sometimes a grant application can be a good thing to force you to reflect on where you've come and where you want to be as well in the future. So that is the 7 steps. And I always, you know, people say, oh, you know, is it first in, first served? Most grants aren't these days. They have a closing date and then they will review them, you know, all together, unless they, you know, state that it is first in, first served. I saw one last week that they are now requiring a 2-stage process and expression of interest, which is, I was really surprised. It was really just your basic information about your business and did you meet the criteria. Then you'll go into a ballot to then be selected for stage 2 to actually apply for the grant. So exciting and a fairer way of doing it than all submitting by 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever it might be. Excuse me. So here we have the 7 steps that I've just gone through now. So we started off with the preparation of getting organized and really planning for success. Creating and designing that work plan of what it looks like, collating all your documents, actually writing it, adding your why and that persuasive language, and then reviewing and submitting it. So that's the 7 steps that I take clients through and I use with my clients when I'm writing my grants. So if you just pop into the chat what your biggest takeaway was from what I've just shared with you, what was the most surprising, or what did you learn from the 7 steps that I've just shared with you now? So if you can just pop that in the chat, and remember, if you have any questions, also pop them in the chat with a capital Q, and I will answer them in a little while. So what were people's biggest takeaways? Jody, yes, I like the thorough planning first. Yeah, so quite often this is the one thing that people say to me, like, oh, I just want to start writing it. And then they might get halfway through, and I think we can't rush grant applications. I've had people ring me the night before a grant is due. So it closed at midnight the next night. It was about 9 o'clock. They rang or texted me and said, hey, can you help us with this grant application? And I was like, no way. Like, you know, and because it required quotes and it required letters of support and it was quite a robust application, there was just no way. That's not to say none can be done in 24 hours, but it does need to have that thorough planning. And I think through the thorough planning, you also end up with a much better project. And just working with a couple of clients lately where we were looking at one grant, our project wasn't quite suitable for that grant. We talked to some other people. We then found another grant. And what we applied for that second grant was a much better project than what we did at the start, or what the idea was at the beginning. So the more time you spend on it, the more you know, robust you get about it, and then you start thinking, well, who else can benefit from this? And the more people that can benefit from your project, the better. Because at the end of the day, if it's government agencies or whoever's giving out the money, they want the best bang for their buck. So, you know, they don't want risky projects. They want projects that are going to look good, feel good, help a business, so that they can, you know, be basically the return on investment is much higher. So that's what they're looking for as well. And that's why the thorough planning leads to a thoroughly written grant application, which is hopefully successful. Now, the tricky thing about grants is I can help you be successful in your grants, but at the end of the day, I still don't really know whether they're going to be approved or not, because it is such a competitive process. You never know how much total funds are available. So, you know, there was one last week for $15,000. And, you know, I had 5 clients apply for that, but we don't know whether there's $1 million, whether there's only $150,000 available as a total fund, and how competitive it is. So, but my motto is you've got to be in to win. And if you're ready to go for grants, it is much easier than starting from scratch, especially if you find out about a grant when it's already been open for a week or two, and that means it closes in another week or two. And that's not that much time, especially when we're trying to do everything else in our business. So that's where people do outsource it to me to write it for them. and we get it done. So that's just something to keep in mind. So do pop your questions in the chat, but some of the questions I have asked to me quite frequently is, where do I find grants for my business? So in Australia, there are these grants directories: the Grants Hub, Business Victoria, Business Australia, Grant Guru, and Grants Ready. Some of them are paid subscriptions, some of them are just search portals. So Business Victoria and Business Australia are obviously the federal and state government grant portals that you type in, you know, your search criteria. The problem with these, though, is sometimes it can take a lot of time to find a grant that's applicable to you and that you are eligible for. So, you know, can be quite time consuming. A lot of people tell me they don't have time, they don't know where to look. And that's what I will share with you soon of what I've created to overcome that. Are there grants to help me start a business? And I'm going to be honest here, there's normally not. When you're a true startup, businesses are not eligible. I mean, that obviously depends, but as I said before, government agencies want the return on investment. So, you know, they want to see some establishment. They want to see that this business is already successful, and then they're giving you a helping hand rather than just starting. It's just too risky. There are startup programs. There might be like a 12-week incubator, which sometimes are free, so you can see them as a grant, and you apply for them, but you're paying with your time. But in terms of cash to start a business, there's very few. And how are grants assessed? So I touched on this a little bit earlier. We never really know. They will share with you the weighting criteria. They will give you the questions which you need to answer, but in terms of, you know, if it's oversubscribed, whether they do a ballot system, whether they just go first in, first served, it's totally up to each panelist and each program, and that information is not normally publicly available either. So it's a bit of a guessing game, but having worked in government and now done a whole heap of grants with clients as well, I have a fair idea of what can be you know, pretty well received. However, it comes down to those limitations of the whole funding program as well. You know, if it's oversubscribed, they'll be ruthless. And quite often, if you are unsuccessful, they don't give feedback, which is also a bit of a shame as well. So now I'm just going to share with you some examples of some businesses that I've helped with their grant applications. So Adam and Yulia were business coaching clients of mine, and we also applied for a couple of grants, which we're still waiting on the assessment of. They are some creatives. They've got a wedding venue and some other businesses on the go as well. So they're full of ideas. They're such a great couple to work with, but applying for a grant was like herding cats. I did have to, you know, implement all these steps that I've just shared with you. In the planning and allocating who was going to do what by when, and we did get those applications submitted on time, but that was a great exercise to help them with their grant applications. Chris was approved for a $25,000 equipment grant to get a cool room at his farm shop, which has increased his efficiencies in his cold storage, so it meant less trips to pick up the cold meat, and it looked much more professional in his little farm shop at his farm gate. And Ben and Jessie, they're clients of mine who they had a side hustle and they've now turned it into a full-time business. And you know, applying for that grant was a bit of a stretch at the time to sort of work out what that project was and how it could grow their business, but we got it and we were successful, so that's super exciting. So now I want to share with you how I can help you and your business to grow and expand with business grants. Now, here in Australia, and it's probably the same around the world as well, I feel that everybody knows about business loans, everybody knows about investors, everyone's heard of angel investors, but people don't necessarily know that there is a hidden economy of grants and funding available, normally from government agencies. There are some private grants available that people just don't know about. And that's what I'm passionate about, is sharing those with people and making sure that they can include them in their strategy. Yes, they're not guaranteed, but also at the end of the day, as I said earlier, you do have to be in to win. And if you can be mindful of what types of projects can be funded through grants, then it's a good strategy to include. So I have created the Grants Club VIP membership. Now, this came out of identifying a gap in the market where I would have people, business owners, come to me and say, oh, Liz, I don't know anything about grants. Can you tell me all about grants? Or can you tell me if my business is eligible for grants? And the tricky thing is, because grants are very fluid and very right now, in terms of we never know when the grants are coming out. Just because they came out last year doesn't mean that they will come out again this year in any shape or form, or even at the same time, or to the same value or the same criteria. And I was having all these calls with people, just sort of giving them that basic information. And then I'd get some information from them, and then I would have a bit of a quick search for grants. And sometimes there'd be some available right at that moment in time, and sometimes there wouldn't be. So this is where I came up with the concept of my Grants Club VIP membership, where basically you become a member of my Grants Club for 12 months. And I guarantee that I will match your business with a grant that you're eligible for. Otherwise, I will refund your membership fee at the end of the 12 months. So I'm that confident there are grants out there for businesses, once we start looking for them in the right places, that you will get your investment back. If I don't find you one. So there's absolutely no risk to you as a business owner investing in this membership. And then basically you come into my ecosystem. So then me and my team will have a strategy call with you up front, which will really gather that information about your business and what we should be looking for, and what kind of projects you've got on, what industry you're in. And then we'll go away and search for grants. It's a 12-month membership because, as I say, that would encompass a whole year's cycle of grants. Most are on, annual or twice a year, just depends. And then there's a private Facebook group where in there's education. So I plan to hold masterclasses, and with the concept of you getting ready to be ready for grants as well. So what do? We do all the hard work and search for suitable grants for you. We show you how to use grants to grow and expand your business. We share our proven process on how to write grant applications, which is what I've done for you today. And I've also got a masterclass that is an extension of this webinar that will show you in detail how to write your grant applications. And also, being in this membership, you will be able to use special discounts to get your grant applications written by me. So the way it works is you sign up, give us your information about your business. There's a form to fill out. Then we'll start searching for grants. When we find one that you're eligible for, we will send you an email saying, hey, look, we found this grant, looks like you're eligible. Do you want to book in for a 15-minute chat with me to talk next steps? And next steps could be me writing it for you, you writing it and us reviewing it, or you might decide not to apply. That's up to you, but there will be a personalized email coming to you with all that detail once we find you grants. So it's kind of exciting. It's brand new. One client that signed up last week, I found her a grant on the first day. So she's pretty stoked, I'm pretty stoked, and away we go. So there'll be a 12-month calendar. There'll be quarterly masterclasses held online and recorded. There'll be other signature programs offered exclusively to members. So I've got some business planning programs, I've got some strategy planning programs, and also some financial capability programs that, the more you learn about your business, the easier it is to apply for grants. There'll be a private Facebook group for learning and sharing information as well, and connecting also with other like-minded businesses as well. And I did have someone say the other day, they're like, oh, I don't want to be in a group where other people are applying for grants. And that's a very scarcity mindset. I'm of the view that, there's enough to go around for everybody, and everybody can apply if they're eligible. The world's a competitive place, and that's why we're in business in the first place. So, I'm all about creating a community where people learn and know more about the grant space than they did before. And we also include a personalized strategy call to get you started. So that's where we'll go through the form that you've filled out with all your information and just, get some more information in terms of what kind of grants we could be looking for, other avenues we can explore, what kind of industries are there in, other industries you're linked to, what area are you in? And I must just say, this is only for Australian businesses, unfortunately, because we are limiting it to the Australian landscape, but that is across federal, state, and local council areas as well. So, a summary of what's included in the Grants Club VIP membership: a 12-month membership worth $1,500, a one-on-one strategy call worth $350, private Facebook group where we will be sharing information with you throughout your membership, and there'll be quarterly masterclasses to the value of $2,000. So the total value is more than $4,000. Now I've got a special for you today. Is the webinar special. It is just $16.50 for the 12-month membership. So that works out at least about $30 a week. So that's basically 1 hour of your staff member looking for grants. So how many people have actually got their staff members looking for grants? Not many. And so we do all that for you. And we've also got a cash flow option as well with 4 monthly payments of $497. So you can pay $497 today, and then the next 3 months there'll be another payment of $497. So there's the link to, I'll put that in the chat as well, to sign up, have a read through. If you are interested in being part of my Grants Club. But I've also got a webinar sign-up bonus for joining me today, and this will also apply for the recorded viewers as well. If you sign up today as part of this webinar, you'll get 2 extra strategy calls. That means you'll get a total of 3 strategy calls. You get one at the very beginning, one sort of 3 or 4 months in, and then one sort of near the end of the 12 months just to see where you're at and how we can grow your business through your strategy. So that is super exciting. Now, I've also just decided that with the discount code of Grants20, which I'll again pop in the chat, if you use this discount code on my website, the full price comes down to $13.20. So for a value of over $4,000 for nearly $5,000 with those 2 strategy calls included, it's down to $1,320 or the 4 monthly payments of $497. So there's the website to have a look at. If you do have any questions, please let me know. I would love to have you in my group. As I say, one person that signed up last week, we found them a grant on the very first day. So once you do fill out the form, we will start looking for grants straight away and get your business growing using grants. Now, I also have a free exclusive Facebook group that I've created called the Efficient Business Community. If you just want to put your phone up to the screen and use that QR code to join that Facebook group, I'd love to see you in there as well. That is where I share more general information, my tips on efficiencies, business tips, and other ideas. And again, sharing and connecting with like-minded business owners is really important in creating community. Now, that's it for today, folks. I just wanted to leave you with this quote that I really think sums up the grants process, and that is, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So, it is all about being grant ready. It is all about being prepared so that when those opportunities come up in a grant program and there's only a few weeks for it to be open, then it makes it much easier and smoother process to write it and then be successful in the long run. So thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, please do reach out. There's my website. my phone number if you're in Australia, and also you can email me on hello@theefficiencycoach.com.au. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you later. Thank you, everybody. I hope you learned something. If anyone does want to touch base or stay online with any other questions they might have, please do so. I'll be around for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, have a great day.